only be Harper and Kenny and the so-called Jewish, so-called Defense League, as well as Netanyahu and Lieberman standing in one place. Everyone else will be dealing with the reality, which is that the Palestinian people have the right to choose their own representatives, and those representatives must be negotiated with if any political settlement is to be achieved. And if we don't achieve a political settlement, we're in for war, war and more war. And make no mistake about this. If there's no justice, there'll be no peace in Palestine. And if there's no peace in Palestine, there'll be no peace in the region. And if there's no peace in the region, there'll be no peace in the world. That's why I say, as I said at the beginning, the real danger to Canada's security is the failure to grant justice to the Palestinian people. The real danger of terrorism is because of this blank check to the occupation government of now Netanyahu, before him Olmert and Livni. For 22 days, the Canadian government supported a murderous bombardment of the 1.5 million people trapped in the Gaza Strip. This was unique in modern war. Normally, when there's a war, the civilian people can flee, can run away, can become refugees. But of course, the Palestinians in Gaza are already refugees, and the people doing the bombardment took the precaution of locking all the gates before they began. And so the people had nowhere to flee. We saw with our own eyes the phosphorus bombs, illegal weapons being dropped on a defenseless civilian population, leaving thousands dead, maimed or orphaned in just 22 days. 61,000 Palestinian homes were destroyed. That's 61,000 families living amongst the rubble of what were their homes. These people had nowhere to run to. Israel told us, you no doubt saw it on your television stations too, that they were dropping leaflets warning the civilians that they should get out of the way. But get out of the way to where? Gaza is a tiny place. It's the most densely populated place on the planet. All the gates were locked. There was nowhere to run to. And the people were massacred. If you were lucky enough to be able to watch Al Jazeera or Press TV or watch on the internet, I say lucky, though it was a mixed blessing, you would have seen the carnage that viewers of mainstream television in North America were denied. Scenes like the little girl burned black by the sun because she'd lain dead out in the open for 3 days because Israel threatened to kill the ambulance men if they went in to pick her up in Zaytuna on the edge of Gaza City. When they finally recovered her little burned black body, the ambulance men held her up to the camera, minus her arm and her leg, which had been eaten by the dogs that were roaming the rubble, feasting on the dead. You will have seen the baby found dead in the same Zaytuna district, still suckling on the toe of her dead mother. You would have seen the United Nations buildings on fire from Israeli bombardment. Even the Israeli soldiers themselves now, in Haaretz and elsewhere, are telling us about the illegal orders they were given by their officers from their political leaders to kill civilian targets and to destroy civilian infrastructure, both illegal under international law. You might have seen the T-shirts that were being worn by some of the Israeli soldiers invading Gaza, bearing the picture of a pregnant Palestinian woman with the slogan, "One bullet kills two." This is the mentality of many of the occupiers and the invaders, driven mad by the power which they'd been given by their government and by those who supplied them with their fearsome weapons to massacre at will a virtually defenseless population. Certainly defenseless from the air, where most of the casualties were created. The Palestinians have no air force, they have no navy, they have no anti-aircraft guns. They were sitting ducks being massacred to the applause of Stephen Harper and Jason Kenney. Let me say in conclusion, I love Canada. As a Scottish man of Irish background, I have many compatriots there. I have many friends and comrades there. I love your country and I love what it used to stand for. I appeal to the Canadian people. Why would you want to have a government that is making your country as disliked in the world as the Bush and Blair administrations were? Canada used to stand for something in the world, for peace, for peacekeeping, for civil liberty, for treating people with respect and equality, for having a society that was the kinder, gentler North American state. And yet here I am speaking to you from New York, unable to be in Toronto. Speakers before me are telling you about posters being banned from campuses, words being forbidden to be printed or published by civil society in Canada. Your rights are being taken away from you. Do not go quietly into that good night. Stand up and fight for your rights. Stand up and fight for the liberties your forefathers and your foremothers bequeathed to you. Recover Canada's reputation in the world. Fly the Canadian flag with pride. Don't let it stand there with the flag of Netanyahu and the discredited banners of Bushism and Blairism. The good news is that this meeting took place. The good news is that the campaign to have it in person will go on. The good news is that all the signs are that a huge number of people in Canada are against this decision. The best news of all is that your government is composed of here today and gone tomorrow politicians, and tomorrow can't come quickly enough for me, and I dare say it can't come quickly enough for you. Let's sweep this last remnant of George Bushism from the North American continent. Let Canada flourish. Let its freedoms fly as a standard that the people of the world can look up to. I bitterly regret that I could not be with you this evening. I'm deeply grateful to the church in Toronto that has hosted this great meeting, to the anti-war movement that made it possible, to my friends in New York City who have made the technology available to us to have this meeting. And I pray that the day will come, and come soon, that I will be able to shake you all personally by the hands. Meanwhile, let's meet if we can at the Rafah Gate, jointly, British, United States, Canada. Let's all break that siege. Let's set the Palestinian people free. Wassalamu alaikum. Thank you very much indeed for listening to me.